Hi, my name is Samantha. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today's video is 5 ways to be more efficient when you're sewing. Let's get into the video. Stay tuned for bonus tip number 6. If you know me, then you know I'm all about efficiency. I don't like to do things out of order. I like to make sure that I'm spending the least amount of time doing something, and I want to be as efficient as possible. So when it comes to sewing, I try to make it so that I'm not wasting time in any space. So here's a couple tips on how I do that. My first tip is to use the same base thread. And how I do this is all of the inside of all my projects, no matter what the project is I use white thread. And I have a big white thread spool. And what I use is a Gutermann 1,000 yards. So this lasts quite a while, about a month or two. And then the second tip is to use a lot of bobbins. So I have my bobbin case here, and as you can see, I'm out of white and black bobbins. Black and white are the ones I use the most. So when the next time I sew, I'm going to need to do 3 or 4 bobbins of white. I've seen where some people even do 10, and then they have just a ton ready, because when you're in the middle of doing a project, you don't want to stop to have to rewind your bobbin. So this also, by using the same base thread and then only top stitching in a colored thread, it also saves you a lot of money when you're sewing with your thread, because then I'm not burning through my specialty threads as fast. And I can show you what I use for my specialty threads. This box right here of Gutermann, again, they are 110 yards and there's 26 spools. I want to say this is $32 at Joann's, but it's always on sale and you could use a coupon. So it allows you to get a bunch of different colors, as you can see. So I use these. I've only burned through one so far, and I use these for top stitching. And then I have some other threads that I use more frequently. So like I do a lot of dark green and burgundy and navy. So those are and gold. So those are the threads that I have bigger spools of, but to be able to color match with a project, I use this. My third tip is to cut more than what you need. So whenever I get new fabrics and I've washed them and brought them back in my sewing room, I go ahead and cut something from all of them, and then I just have a big pile of things that I'm ready to sew. So that means that when I come into my sewing room and I'm ready to sew something, I already have things cut. And for me, I'm not a fan of cutting. I don't like cutting things. I also do this with paper crafting. I don't like having to cut in the moment. So it also takes off part of the gift bags. That's 3 patterns on the outside and 1 on the inside. So 4 different patterns. I don't want to waste my thought on trying to piece colors together. So if I already have 2 out of the 3 picked out, or I've already had all of them cut out and all I need to do is sew, that makes it so much more enjoyable for me. And I'm not like moving back and forth, like ironing, then sewing, then cutting, then this and that. Like, it makes it much more efficient when you have all your items done in stages. You cut them all, you do all the first row of stitching, and then you iron it or you serge it, and then you do the next step. My 4th tip is to keep your hardware and your cut pieces together. This can be seen with my keychains. Let me show you what that means. So this can be easily seen here in my keychain pouch. So I recently cut out these 2, and then I just went ahead and ironed in the interfacing, and so these need to go ahead and be sewn, but I've already done half the steps. Then I also have like my pliers in here, or I have ones that have been sewn together that just need hardware. So they're at all different stages in this basket, but keeping all of the pieces together so I know I can take this with me and I do all my key fobs is very helpful. My 5th tip for you is to sew by thread color. What I mean by this is, like I said, I do all the insides white. Then once it becomes a step that I have to pick a color, I sort it by color. So I'll do all my green threads, then I'll do all my red threads. So I'm not changing out my threads on my sewing machine as often as I need to. I can just change it for 4 or 5 different projects and then swap it. Because if you're constantly switching in between, it takes too much time. It's not very efficient. My sixth and bonus tip is to never trim your interior threads. No one's ever gonna see it, so just trim it on the side of your sewing machine and just leave it like a half an inch or an inch long. Nobody's ever gonna know that those threads are on the inside. One, you won't have the threads all over your sewing room, and two, you're not gonna waste your time cutting it. You do not need to cut interior threads. Just leave them be. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any tips on how to be more efficient when you sew, please leave them in the comments section down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a great day.